Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, but today we actually have a special episode and something special happening. It's the Podcasthon. What is that? Podcasthon is a global charity podcast event that has started in 2023. It will only have podcasts from March 15 to 21st of 2025. There's many episodes and it's focusing on a cause that I am passionate about. What am I passionate about? Leadership. But first it starts with education. The honor is on my side to have the CEO and founder of Edsnaps with us, Dr. Susanne Cappendijk, and we know her as Dr. C. We have had many other episodes with her. What is Edsnaps, where you are today, where you go in the future, and why is this cause so important today?
Well, thank you, Suzanne, for inviting me for this special episode of Like a Podcast. In this podcast, as Suzanne said already, we would like to highlight leadership, but also how do we get leaders? That is an important issue that Edsnaps is focusing on, and we do that through education, and not like an ordinary education, but quality education, because we see in so many years that there is an educational gap. The problem oftentimes is that a lot of organizations, they want to cover that gap, but they are not going for the root causes. They are treating symptoms. What Edsnaps is doing is we are covering the roots. If you don't start at the roots, if you don't work at the foundation of quality education, you're not going to bridge that gap. So that is what we're focusing on. We do this on a local, national, and on a global scale. Encourage youth, and then especially young women and girls, to discover their passions and also to explore career pathways. The way we're doing that one is we think motivation is key. If you don't motivate your students, you're not going to get the interest raised. And it doesn't matter where that student is located. It could be like, for example, we work in the Bronx in person, but it could also be a student in North Carolina or in Florida, or students in Kenya, for example. That's where we work. We are bringing an ecosystem to them. They are working on that one. This year we're working on happy hexagons, and we are focusing on the geometrical form for that, but also how do we build a hexagon. It's very important that students learn about their local environment, but also local environment meaning the inner ecosystem. If you don't appreciate yourself and you do not know what your self-value is, you're not going to be able to be open and learn. So in order to be a good learner, you have to recognize what you can do yourself. And that is what we're trying to make them realize, that they have the power in their own hands. It doesn't matter how rich they are. It doesn't matter where they are located. If they have a good brain, and they can use that brain, they can move mountains. And we can transform STEM learners, and we can transform them into STEM leaders. That is an important part.
When I'm listening to you, it's about the strength. So you focus on the strength and what the girls or young women are bringing to the table and motivate them. What I want to showcase here is also, how did everything start? Where did it start? What was the pivotal moment for you?
That was in 2017 when I was stuck in a subway on the Upper West Side coming back from a mentoring event in the Bronx. One of my students over there, he was like very, very nice, very smart guy. It was like a co-ed program where I was like mentoring. He said to me, he said, Dr. C, I don't think I'm going to apply for college because I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I don't have a chance. And I am not going to do this. I said, so what's holding you back? He says, well, I'm from the Bronx. What's your problem? And then he said, well, from the Bronx, we don't have anything. We don't have any tools. We have any things. I said, I can give every student a computer and everybody can learn the techniques and the tools. But you have your specific brain and nobody can take that away. You just have to appreciate it. And I said, you can have one piece of paper and come up with a brilliant device that can solve a global problem. I said, but that is your strength, but you have to recognize that one. If you are able to communicate that in an application, they will take you in. And it doesn't matter where you're coming from, but you have to learn how to understand that, what you would like, what your strength is, but also what your weaknesses are. And our programs, we work mainly in after-school programs, so we're not bounded to certain times of the day or to certain schools. We can work anywhere. We teach our students that self-value comes from inside. And you can teach everyone how to use, for example, a word processor program or a data sheet, like a database, like putting data in there. Well, you can help them understand what it is to be creative, what it is to make new things, how to problem solve, how to become a critical thinker. Once they get that, with that motivation in it, you can't stop them anymore because they understand what their power is. That is what you would like to do and would like to give to every student. Our programs in the past and the current ones now, and also most likely the ones in the future, they set up students for success. It's and every student has their own level of entry. We are not judgmental. We don't say, oh, you don't know this yet. No, we teach them the basics, the foundation of everything. So visual, we work with the art, we work with mathematics, we do physics, but we do it in such a playful manner that they sometimes don't even realize that they have been doing 1.5 hours of physics. And that is the strength, because then you show it back to them and then you see oh my gosh, I just did this. And that is power. You give them power, you give them self-worth, you give them self-esteem, and you treat them with respect. No matter if they are 10 years old, 15, 55, everybody is welcome in our programs, but you treat people with respect. That is an important part. That's teamwork. That is making people human. And we do that one student at a time.
So many great words are coming up. It's about self-value, strength. I love that. Setting up for success. Sometimes you go to school, and I remember, and I felt like I'm not good in math. I understand anything about physics. I'm listening to you. I wish I had that when I went to school, but okay, I still can learn. It's all about learning, listening, leading, but giving also the power to the students, empower them. And it's about teamwork and mostly the respect.
Yes, a lot of times the students, and they are not treated with respect. What we see usually when we have our summer program, for example, our last summer program was in 2024. We run for 3 weeks nonstop, Monday through Friday in the Bronx. So we have approximately between 20 and 30 young girls and young women between 10 and 16 years old. We have our counselors. We treat them as people. And you would say, oh, that's a no-brainer, but sometimes those summer camps are very large. So if you have 500 students coming in and out for a week, you don't know them by name. We know our students by name. Our counselors are being trained for that. And then at the end, we have a showcase. This year, we had a STEM art walk, and that was in one of the establishments in the Bronx. And then you hear the parents say, oh, I didn't know my daughter could do this. Or they look at me very puzzled. Is this my daughter presenting to a judge? You can see the disbelief, but it's also very good to make the parents aware of what their students can do. That is often lacking because sometimes they have to do their homework. You don't even know what they are doing. A lot of our students are minorities. English is their second language. Sometimes the parents don't even understand what has to be done. What we are doing down is we're bringing down that level of communication. We show them by visuals and by hands-on what their students have been making or producing over those weeks, and also lower that barrier of entry for certain courses, because we almost like dissect the word, the terminology that is used in like STEM courses. And sometimes, and that still happens, students get like the advice from either people working in the school or from maybe their family members. Oh, you shouldn't take math because it's too hard for you because you're a girl. Or you shouldn't take math because you never need math anyway. We make them understand that it is their choice and that they can do it because we believe in them. And we work with a vertical business model. That means we're not going to go for a lot of like quantities. We're not serving 500 students a week. We're serving 30 to 60 students over the summer, and we go vertical. A lot of these younger students, they're being prepared and being transformed in a leader. For example, our 2017 cohort is now part of like our board of directors, our junior advisor board. They're giving back already to our local community. Our 2020 students, they are now going through like their undergrad. They are looking for internships. Of course, nobody wants the first year as an internship. Well, they come back to us. We train them as counselors, so they get leadership qualities. That is kind of our sustainability model also as well. But it's also very important for the students to see the growth there. And to, when we have to write letters of recommendation for our students, if we have to write 10 letters for 10 students, well, with some certainty and confidence, I'll say 10 out of 10 get into the program they apply for.
Wow,
so
congratulations.
That is because we know these students, because I've been on an admission committee, and you get sometimes those letters of recommendations, and a female identifying student is applying for it, and then you see in this letter of recommendation a male identifying verb standing there, or the name misspelled, or what we do is we give them real examples. I have a lot of examples of these students, how they have been growing, what they were frustrated about, or what they didn't want to do. And suddenly you see the change. We have students that never were interested in math. Last night, for example, we have an e-magazine meeting, which we also produce twice a year. One of our students says like, oh yeah, I was taking math after that. And we were shown a statistics, like a figure. She went into that one really, really deep. She would not have thought about that 3 years ago when she started Edsnaps. And that is the power of making them believe in themselves. Nobody can tell them what to do now. Once that lid is off and they almost taste the leadership skill they have or can develop, or what the potentials are, it's amazing what they can do. And we find sometimes mentors for them, sometimes coaches. They were building a support network, and that network is there for the rest of their life. If they need us today, we're there today. If they don't need us today, but they need us tomorrow, we'll be there tomorrow. It is all student-focused work that we're doing. We offer those programs for free as long as we can and as long as we exist.
Congratulations, we can only say, and that's why it makes sense to highlight that cause for education. What was the highlight of last year? I heard you went to the airport.
That was one of our highlights again. We are teaming up with American Airlines, and American Airlines invited us for the second year to visit them at the JFK terminal. And what our contact and champion person, Ed, is doing is he makes sure that there is a 777 part. That's a huge plane. The staircases are there. We go around like with engineers, and everybody at American Airlines is involved in it. It's like sometimes like 30 to 50 people. Everybody knows we're coming. We arrive there with like a special bus, and we are entering the building. And after that, we are immersed with everything from STEM. Like you cannot imagine what we see. We see those big motors. We see the air conditioning. We see who's working on that plane, what they are doing, what they are testing. This year we went into the workshop and we saw kind of like blades made out of like certain steel, how you can check that for like failure there, what is happening there. We saw some equipment that is also used in the medical world for other purposes, but you could make those connections, and the students started to understand that, like general principles. Of course, we were served lunch, which is also one of the best parts of the day, because after so many like exposure to so many different STEM disciplines and walking around in those huge hangars, it's amazing there. Our students got to sit in the pilot chair. They were like, anything you can think about, we could ask and discuss. There was a Q&A session after lunch, and it was amazing. That's one of the field trips we're doing. It's like, and we go to like communities, we go to parks, we go to gardens, we learn about our environment, how can we support that, how we can motivate that. We go to different musea, we have a lot of hands-on, and that is important because some of our students learn by hands-on, and that is the power of EDsnaps. We know what our students want because we ask about that. We know what our counselors want because they grow up with us. We are student focused. Every year is a different curriculum. We build the curriculums ourselves. So for Kenya, we build them. For Ghana, we build them. The E-magazine is interviewing. We have our leadership program this summer. We're going to train extra counselors because we want to expand. We need new counselors. And the summer program is still up. We still have some dates available for some field trips there. We're working on that. It is as exciting. We grow and we expand, but we stay close to our cause. It's like we focus on increasing diversity in the STEM workforce, and we do that to transforming STEM learners into STEM leaders.
We all know the pandemic happened since when you started in 2017 to today in 2025. I remember I had the honor to be one of the last presenters in person in the Bronx, talking about my game of cones. We don't say too much, but that was a lot of fun. And the leadership continues. Where do you, as a person, get your ideas, your inspiration?
I remember that workshop, and it was so much fun. I really enjoy that. So I get my ideas by talking to other people that I have in my network, in my support network. I have a very dear friend, and she's also on the board of directors, Maria Elena Pizarro. And we often visit musea. And since she's coming from a totally different discipline, she sometimes makes remarks, and sometimes it's like, I like this, or I am like, oh, I didn't look at it like that. And I say like, oh, maybe I can do that. And also talking with you, Susanne, as one of our board of advisors, I get ideas from you as well. Sometimes it doesn't really start immediately, but there's something planted, of course, in my brain as well. And then I start thinking like, how can we translate that into kind of a hands-on experiment? And sometimes the experiment is really cool and the students are like, oh, this is kind of boring. So by having that feedback, I'm like, so what is boring then about it? What do you want to change about it? I immediately take that back to them and then say, well, if you think it's boring, make me a different one. Your learning, listening, and leadership is coming from. By listening to them, it's like, okay, on the spot, we can change it. That is the flexibility we have in our summer program, mainly. Sometimes Zoom is a bit harder because it's like more kind of a format that we found now that works really well all over the world. By changing that, it gives them also some kind of like saying in there. It's like, wow, did I just do that? Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And that is the strength of us. We're flexible. Sometimes you have something in mind, especially when the pandemic hit. We changed almost from overnight to going in person to on Zoom. I saw and I noticed that our students were so stressed out. Am I going to push that curriculum tonight or not? I'm like, no. We're going to listen tonight. I'm going to talk. Really talk. And I said, look, I know you're stressed out. I said, I'm stressed out as well. And then they're like, you're stressed out, Dr. C? Why? Well, there's a pandemic going on. So, but to them, you don't have a problem. But by giving them the option to getting to know me, that I have a problem sometimes as well, it makes me human, but they also understand that you have problems at different levels. So what is like a huge problem for you at this time when you're 12 or 14 or 16 you might laugh about when you're 20 or 25 or when you're as old as I am, because then you think, what's your problem?
Mhm.
But by giving that and discussing it and bringing it to the table, it starts working on that empathy factor about that is an important part for like your development, your cognitive development. How are you emotional? So that's why I like to focus with our workshops also. Of course, I love math a lot, but it's that holistic view that we're approaching. You can be a smart student, you can ace everything, but if you do not have any emotional intelligence, it's not going to work. You need to make that them understand. By putting them in my shoes, it's like, oh, now I can see a little bit better. And it's like, and of course you build up resilience over the years for like problem solving and other things, but we have to start with them very early. And they have some of these students that we have in the summer, they have a lot of problems. But by giving them and listening to them in the summer, we give them a safe harbor. They know what they can do. And we do not allow students making fun of other students. Everybody is welcome. So students with learning disabilities, with learning problems, regular students, students of all kinds of backgrounds, we don't ask. You need us, we are there. You want to learn something, you're at the right spot. If you don't want to learn, then you should not be here. We give them the choice. They always get a second chance. If they mess up, they're not welcome in the program. And then, of course, they start complaining to me or to the counselors, well, my mom has a problem with that if I'm not in your program. Well, action is reaction. They learn that sometimes in the hard way. But sometimes tough love is needed. And that's what you do. And then they get their second chance and then they are great. And then they become your counselor 4 years later and they say, oh my gosh, what kind of a pain in the ass was I for that program? But they realize it. And that is great because they really get that sense of feeling with the younger students. And the younger students don't even get a chance to act up because their counselor is already correcting them before something happens. So they learned something. They are real leaders. And that's what I like about our programs.
The only thing I can say, keep it up, keep inspiring others, and make sure that the Edsnaps ecosystem is flourishing and gets water and is nurtured. We wish you a wonderful summer program of 2025 and many more to come. Thank you so much to the founder and CEO, Dr. Z.
Thank you as well for inviting me and giving us the opportunity to like share what we are doing. And thank you, Susanne, on a personal level for being such an amazing supporter of Edsnaps, and so happy that you are on our board of advisors. Thank you so much.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. What a cool conversation for a special episode for Podcasthon, which is a groundbreaking initiative that unites podcasters from around the world to support charitable causes and inspire positive change. It launched in 2023. Podcasthon has grown rapidly with over 400 podcasts participating in 2024 and more than 1,500 expected for the 2025 edition. We're one of them. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes usually every Monday. We're up to 477 episodes. Come and join us, ask questions, grow with leaders. It's about learning, listening, leading. And Take It from the Ironwoman is also the book Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Get it in your bookstore or download it. And please like us and subscribe to our podcast where you're listening to your preferred podcast. Thank you for your support and bye-bye.
Free audio post-production.